Thank you. Everybody's back, come back.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we pick up a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 12, the cleansing of Gundicha temple. Well, we start in text 4. It's the beginning of this chapter, which deals with the cleansing of the heart of the devotee. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu organized this pastime of cleaning the Gundicha temple, which is a temple situated some 5-10 kilometers from Jagannath Puri, which is a replica of Vrindavan in Jagannath Puri, where Lord Jagannath goes and stays for a while and returns back to the Ratha-yatra after 1 week, something like that. So before going deep in this topic, we'll speak a little about the desire of the king to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how it was arranged in a very diplomatic way. So we start from text 4. Purve dakshina haite Prabhu yaila, tandre milite gajapati hutkantita kaila. Translation. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his South Indian tour, Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, became very anxious to meet him. Gataka haite patridila sarvabhumatani, Prabhu rahagyahai hyadi dektikariyai. The king sent a letter from his capital Kataka to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, entreating him to obtain the Lord's permission so that he could go and see him. Bhattacharya likida, Prabhu rahagyalaila, punarapi raja tandre patri pataila. Replying to the king's letter, Bhattacharya wrote that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not given his permission. After this, the king wrote him another letter. Prabhu ranikate aisha, yate bhaktagana, moralajitan sabare karila nivedana. In this letter, the king requested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please appeal to all the devotees associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submit this petition to them on my behalf. Say Sambadayalu More Hanya Sadaya, Moralaji Prabhupada Kariba Vinaya. If all the devotees associated with the Lord are favorably disposed toward me, they can submit my petition at the lotus feet of the Lord. Tan sabare prabhas, tan sabara prashade mile supabhurapaya, Prabhu kripam vinam mora rajan hai baya. By the mercy of all the devotees, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Without his mercy, my kingdom does not appear to me. Yadi more kripanna kari gogora hari, raja chadi yogi yai aiba bikari. See, if Gora Hari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will not show mercy to me, I shall give up my kingdom, become a mannequin and beg from door to door. Bhattacharya patrideki chintita hanyam, Bhaktagana pasha jela sei patrilanyam. When Bhattacharya received this letter, he became very anxious. He then took the letter and went to the devotees of the Lord.
Why you was anxious?
He became anxious because the level of pressure get higher and higher and higher. He knows the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that doesn't want to have any contact with woman and king order. He wants to be distant. So he explains this to the king, but the king became adamant. And then when the king says that he will, like 5,000 years ago, Arjuna, I will give up my kingdom, become a mannequin, I renounce, I beg from door to door. Then Bhattacharya became anxious because who will take the rule of the kingdom? If he goes, it becomes a whole state affair, not just meeting the king with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then it becomes a big problem for the kingdom, for the people at large in general. Who will protect the citizens, the frontiers, the borders, all that? Who will administrate? Then he became anxious because he had this burden of resolving the problem on his shoulder. Then he went to the principal associate of the Lord to speak with them. That's why he was anxious. Because he was in charge of the temple, and all of a sudden he understood that it was not just a simple affair of the temple and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the king, but it overflowed and it became a state affair. Sabaram miriya kaila raja vivarana, piche se patri sabare karela darashana. Savabhoma Bhattacharya met with all the devotees and describes the king's wishes. Then he presented the letter to all of them for inspection. Patrideki sabaram manihaila vishmaya, Prabhupada gajapatira heta bhakti hoy. Upon reading the letter, everyone was astonished to see that King Prataparudra had so much devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sabe kahe Prabhu tandre kabu nami libe, abhisava kahi yadi dukkha se manibe. The devotee gave their opinion and said, the Lord will never meet the king, and if we requested him to do so, the Lord would surely feel very unhappy. Sarvabhuma kahe, sabe chala he kabara, millite nara kaiba, kaiba raja vyavaraha. Sarvabhuma Bhattacharya then said, we shall go on again to the Lord but we shall not request him to meet the king. Rather, we shall simply describe the good behavior of the king. Etambani sabe chela mahaprabhustani, kahite hunmuka sabe nakahe bachani. Having thus reached a decision, they all went to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, although ready to speak, they could not even utter a word. They were really shy and afraid of the reaction of the Lord, because they knew the Lord already knew their mind. And they didn't know how to start to disintricate the knot, la pelote de nœud. Prabhu Kohe.
Also, they were very impressed. It's Lord Chaitanya. You know what I mean? When with Prabhupada was saying,
Yeah.
What kind of ideas before he comes and questions. When you're in front of him, so impressed, and no word will come out. Very good.
Yeah, they would not dare speak what they wanted to do. So we see also how the king tried to appear first to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya unsuccessfully. Then he understood that by writing this letter, that was not something like nowadays politicians do. They do something and they act oppositely a few days after, and then they say another thing, and then they act in another way, like that. Diplomacy nowadays has nothing to do with how kings were this past, even 500 years ago. When the king would say something, he would do it at this time. So it was not light, a light letter or something strong like that. He meant really what he spoke and what he wrote, and he was ready to be a mendicant. That's why Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was anxious. You could never expect that one of our president or responsible person would say such a thing. Impossible, because they don't do what they think. They are completely hypocritical and completely topsy-turvy in the way they act, and they don't reflect the way they think and the way they speak also. Prabhu kohe ki kaite sabara gamana, tekiye kaite shaha nakaha ki karana. After they arrived at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place, the Lord, seeing them, said, "What have you all come here to say? I see that you want to say something, but you do not speak. What's the reason?" Nityananda kohe, tumhara chai nevidite, na kaila raite nari, kaite bayachite. Nityananda Prabhu then said, "We want to tell you something. Although we cannot stay without speaking, we are still very much afraid to speak." So Nityananda wets himself and takes the role of speaking on behalf of the devotees and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So that's the way the Lord instigates some inspiration in the so-called heart, because it's the same person of Nityananda Prabhu to speak. You see how we can see now the diplomacy of the Lord that makes these people speak, or this associate speak, or this one. It's all inspiration in the heart, and it shows the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, shows us like that the way how to behave with the Lord and to behaving between devotees in tough situation or difficult situation, or to be diplomatic in between devotees without hurting anyone. There's a big care in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the dealings in between different categories of devotees and authorities, and to make it in a way that the devotee not become devastated in their heart, in their devotion, and at the same time they can arrange some service and do the things they do, and it's a whole affair of sweet dealing in between the devotees. And that these signs that Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically deals with. So here we have a good example of how the king wants to do something, but he cannot directly. Then he asks some authority who cannot do it directly, then ask the devotees, and Nityananda understood. Then he makes things advance little by little like that. Yoga Yogya Tomara Sabachai Nivedite Tomanami Hilile Raja Chaye Yogi Aite. So Nityananda speaks. We want to submit before you something that may or may not be befitting. The matter is this: unless he sees you, the king of Orissa will become a mendicant. Kane murai muni naiba bikari, Raja boga nai chinte, vinagora hari. Nityananda Prabhu continued. The king has decided to become a mendicant and accepted the sign of a mendicant by wearing an ivory earring. Ivory earring means mendicant. He does not want to enjoy his kingdom without seeing the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. In India, there is still a class of professional mendicants who are very much like the gypsies of Western countries. They know some magical art and mystical processes, and their business is to beg from door to door, sometimes pleading and sometimes threatening. Such mendicants are sometimes called yogis and sometimes Kanafata yogi. The word Kanafata refers to one who has put a hole in his ear to wear an earring made of ivory. Maharaj Pataparuda was so depressed by not getting to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he decided to become such a yogi. Ordinary men think that a yogi must have an ivory earring in his ear, but this is not the sign of a real yogi. Maharaj Pataparuda, although thought that to become a mendicant, one must wear such an earring. India is like that. The way you partake your hair for a woman means a lot of things. The way you wear this clothes or this clothes means a lot of things. You could recognize just by seeing a person what was his caste, his origin, what it was meant for that, and the Brahmins who were even more expert in seeing the ears, the nose, and the facies of a person could understand where this person is fit for that kind of work or occupation, and probably coming from this kind of people or this kind of thing. Just by seeing the face and also the hands. They are so expert. But generally speaking, just by the suit, outskirt, we can see what kind of person it was. How much different it is with the West, where everyone is disguised before with a nice outfit, nice everything, nice mannequin with the Apple computer, nice car, and the car, the inside the heart is completely opposite. But it's completely disgusting. What is in the stomach is completely disgusting. In the mind, completely opposite. So many people who advocate for humanity, so many good values, morality, and inside they are completely opposite. And at night, in the bed, they act completely opposite of what they speak. This is typical of Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. We show something external and internal is completely different. The devotee must be well aware of that and not to fall in this kind of trap, even in a subtle way. Gopi Paranadhana, who translated this book in 3 volumes.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah, Brihad Bhagavatamrita. He says something that I always meditate on it, that real bhajan starts when your external activities reflect really your internal mood. The art is really gives the light to your activities and the reflection of the. There is no distortion in between what you do and what you think. While in the materialist is completely, they speak one thing, they think another thing, and they act on completely opposite things. So the mark of the devotee is they speak something because they think of something and they do accordingly. Difficult to find such a person in the age of Kali, who think, who speaks, and do the things in the same way, according, on top of it, to the scriptures. Very difficult to find such a qualified person. Very difficult. Dekiba se mukat chandranda yani bariya, dhariba se pada padma haridaye tuliya. Nityananda Prabhu continued. The king also expressed his desire to see the moon-like face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his highest full satisfaction. He would like to raise the lotus feet of the Lord to his heart. Yajapati Shuniya Prabhu Rakumalaha Yamanam Tatapi Bahire Karanishtura Vachanam. Hearing all of this statement, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was certainly softening, but externally he wished to speak some harsh words. Toma Sabaraicha, Eha Maralanya, Rajake Milaha, Ihan Katakiti Jia. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I can't understand that you all desire to take me to Kataka to see the king. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is naturally the reservoir of all kindness. And as soon as he heard that the statement made by the king, his heart immediately softened. Thus, the Lord was ready to go see the king even at Kataka. He did not even consider allowing the king to come from Katata to Jagannath Puri to see him. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so kind that he was ready to go see the king of Kataka. Apparently, it was never expected that the king wanted to see the Lord at his place, at the place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But by way of being externally harsh, the Lord indicated that if all the devotees so desired, he would go to Kataka to see the king. So here Srila Prabhupada explained really the state of being of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the inner sentiment in the heart of the Lord, if we can speak this way, because he plays this way. So we apply some terms that applies to apparently a normal human being. So the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was softened to the point, up to the point of going to Kataka. Kataka is a city, I don't know exactly. It's not close to Jagannath Puri, but it's not so far either. Someone knows? I've been to Kataka? No? So, generally, when you want to see someone, you move your body to see that person. But here we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was softened by the devotee and also knowing the devotion of the king, was ready up to the point of going himself to Kataka to see the king. That's what Srila Prabhupada reveals to us. Because the verse doesn't say exactly that. It says, I can understand that you all desire to take me to Kataka to see the king. But the devotee didn't say that. They didn't say that. They said that the king wants to see the Lord. And here, the Lord goes a little further and says that you desire me to bring me to Kataka to see the king. So the devotee must be astonished to hear that, because they didn't ask so much.
And there is no contradiction between Lord Chaitanya's behavior and Srila Prabhupada's behavior toward the mayor of Paris. Prabhupada was supposed to go to him, to stand up when he comes, but he preferred to stay sitting and wait for the mayor to, show himself subordinate to him. Because Chaitanya Prabhu, that was like a personal dealing with Prataparudara and his devotees. But Prabhupada, that was a preaching dealing. He was not supposed to stand up in front of the material authority.
Yeah, he will not sit down. I remember this point. The protocol was that at a certain point, the devotee and Prabhupada would sit down and hear the speech of someone else. I don't know.
No, the contrary. They were sitting, and when the mayor comes, they were supposed to stand up as respect to the material authority. Or everybody stand up, but Prabhupada remained sitting.
I understood it was oppositely. They were upstanding and they had to sit.
I'm not supposed, as a spiritual master, the teacher, the guru, I'm not supposed to stand up to some so-called king.
So it created a kind of strange feelings in the assembly of the mayor and his associates.
Here the king is a great devotee. Devotee, so Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah. But oppositely, the devotee was such a strange people in the frame of Mary and all that they forgot it afterwards. Text 24. Paramarta takuka loke karibe nindana loke rau damodara karibe barsana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, what to speak of spiritual advancement? All the people will blaspheme me. And what to speak of all the people Damodar would chastise me. Tomara sabara agyaya hami namili rajare Damodara kabe yabe mili tabe tandre. I shall not meet the king at the request of all the devotees, but I shall do so if Damodar will give his permission. So here we enter in another pastime with the devotee Damodar. Well, let's hear the purport of Srila Prabhupada. From the spiritual point of view, a sannyasi is strictly forbidden to see materialistic people, especially a king who is always engaged in counting pounds, shillings, and pence. Indeed, the meeting between a sannyasi and a king is always considered abominable. Wow. A sannyasi is always subjected to public criticism, and a small fault on his part is taken seriously by the public. People actually expect a sannyasi to preach and not take part in any social or political matter. If a sannyasi is subject to public criticism, his preaching will not be fruitful. His preaching will be not fruitful. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically wanted to avoid such criticism so that his preaching work would not be hampered. It so happened that while the Lord was talking to his disciple at this time, the devotee Damodar Pandit was present. This Damodar Pandit was a very faithful devotee and a staunch lover of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whenever there was anything that might touch or taint the character of the Lord, Damodar Pandit would immediately point it out, not even considering the exalted position of the Lord. It is sometimes said that fools rush in where angels dare not. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to point at Damodar Pandit's foolishness in coming forward to criticize the Lord. Thus, the Lord indirectly hinted that if Damodar Pandit would give him permission, he would go to see the king. There was a deep meaning in this statement, for it is a warning that Damodar should not dare criticize the Lord anymore, for it was not befitting his position as a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was considered the guide and spiritual master of all the devotees living with him. Damodar Pandit was one of them, and the Lord rendered Damodar Pandit a special favor by warning him to avoid criticizing him further. A devotee or a disciple should never attempt to criticize the Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. It's a very condensed purport. Can speak in so many aspects of this relationship in between the devotees themselves and the Lord. Like that. So here we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing many things at the same time in his Lila. And especially mentioning Damodar Pandit by giving him all of a sudden a super prominent position in allowing or not allowing him to go to see the king. So of course, probably Damodar Pandit was in the assembly of the devotees and could understand that what he was doing in the past had reached a limit, and he could understand the hints Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving to him. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wants to preserve his status of a sannyasi by following strictly the rules and regulations of a sannyasi. And he say, I don't want to see the king, but if you insist, and especially if Damodar Pandit give me permission, I will go. Because when something is not clear and the people criticism, then Srila Prabhupada specifically points out in this purport that it's not befitting to a preacher to be criticized. If for a reason or another a preacher is criticized, his preaching will be annihilated, fruitless. And well, it's the responsibility of a preacher to act in such a way with the general populace or the authority in charge so that it doesn't disturb them. And if he sees that his preaching or his way of preaching or doing things or whatever is subject to some turmoil, then better for him to go to another place and take a listen from that. Because some activities may be fitting in a country, and in another country it will be the opposite. It will agitate the people, or the press, or the king, or the minister, whatever. And his way of preaching has to be done in an expert way so that it doesn't disturb the people at large. And it's not an easy thing to understand the mind of the populace and to make some adjustment also in the way you present the books, and also, or not only that, the way you print the book. Some Muslim country you cannot display this kind of picture that we have in the West. So you have to print the books, and also you have to present them in such a way that you must not offend the people, otherwise your preaching will be lost. So a preacher must be expert in so many fields, and a sannyasi even more, because he's in charge of preaching in a country, and you have to find the means how to push Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, and at the same way not to too much disturb the people who are there. Oh, that's not so easy to do things in a pushing other, but with a smile and in a gentle way, so that our ideas can be presented to the populace at large in a way that they appreciate, and they may because if they don't appreciate, or they feel pressure, or there is too much bad article in the or like that, the preaching becomes very difficult. We have seen that in France, where we have been so much oppressed by the press, and our preaching have been quite hampered, especially in the past, where we were known but not known in a nice way, and presented by the press in a nice way. So maybe we can stop for here. Maybe someone have a comment or some story to speak.
So what do you think when I meet a student and everything is fine, they accept vegetarianism, they accept a lot of things, but if somehow the subject comes to abortion, then everything changes, the mood changes totally, and they become totally even violent. Should we talk about it or not? And now I avoid talking about it because it's...
Yeah, even when a preaching can be fit in a country at a certain...
Can you repeat the question?
Huh?
Can you repeat the question? I could not understand.
No, me neither. It was a commentary.
Oh,
C'est au sujet des avortements. Quand je prêche, tout va bien. Ils acceptent beaucoup de choses. Et des fois, on en vient à l'avortement. Et là,
avortement.
oui, ça,
Oh.
ils acceptent absolument. La plupart des filles, absolument. Et donc, je posais la question. Alors, moi, j'essaie d'éviter d'en parler maintenant. C'est mieux qu'ils aient un livre avec le temps.
When you feel that the person you preach to is becoming like a wall, you just come back to the basis. A little prashada, the book, and that's it. Because you lose your time by preaching. We can preach to someone who is inclined to hear. If he is not inclined, it's like water on a feather of a duck. It doesn't do nothing, no effect. So we can just Hare Krishna and we go to someone else, or we leave a piece of prashadam, or if the person can be up to the point of taking a booklet, it's good. The best what we can do. Also, we have to see that the preaching in a country can be fit for a time, and then the authorities change or the president change, and the method cannot work. You have to change, or you have to go to another country. It happened in Iran, in Pakistan. The devotee tried to preach in those countries, and they had some little success, and after it became difficult, and they had to go in another way. Sometimes it's not that smooth, like in the West. It becomes dangerous, perilous to preach in some country. So we'll see next time what reaction of the Damodar Pandit. Is it the same Pandit? Yeah, Damodar Pandit. Kantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Gura Premanandi.